In the imposing Harrison mansion, the reading of John Harrison's will is about to reveal a surprising secret. This moment promises to profoundly shake the family foundations, challenging the Harrison brothers' expectations and redefining what they knew about legacy, love, and truth. The gray morning reflected the somber mood in the Harrison home, an imposing Victorian mansion whose windows looked like sad eyes witnessing the mourning of the reunited family. Meredith Harrison was sitting in the living room, staring distractedly at the raindrops sliding down the window. She was thinking of her father, John Harrison, whose sudden death had left her in a state of shock and denial. As the eldest of the Harrison siblings, Meredith had always sought John's approval, striving in her career as a lawyer in the hope of one day impressing him. Their relationship, although respectful, was marked by an emotional distance that Meredith had always wanted to overcome. Alex Harrison, on the other hand, seemed to absorb the tension of the environment as he checked his phone incessantly, irritated by the interruption to his business routine. He had a confident, almost arrogant demeanor, a reflection of his successful business career. Alex never doubted his position in the world, bolstered by the Harrison name, and saw the inheritance as a mere addition to his already substantial financial success. He and John had a complex relationship, mixing mutual admiration with frequent clashes due to their strong personalities and divergent opinions. Lily Harrison sat quietly, her eyes roaming over the art collection on the wall, a passion she shared with her father. Of all the siblings, she was the one who connected most emotionally with John, sharing long conversations about art, literature, and the mysteries of life. Her sensitive nature meant that the loss of her father weighed deeply on her heart, leaving her lost without his guidance and support. The atmosphere was charged with a mixture of grief, anxiety, and a strange anticipation of what was to come. The reading of John Harrison's will was imminent, and with it, the revelation of his last wishes and decisions, which could change the family dynamic forever. The Harrison family, along with the family's longtime lawyer, Mr. Whitaker, gathered in the library where John spent most of his days writing. Mr. Whitaker, a middle-aged man with a serious posture and composed look, began reading the will, detailing the distribution of assets, charitable donations, and personal bequests left to close friends and associates. When it came to the crucial point of the will, a palpable tension settled in the air. Mr. Whitaker announced that the bulk of John Harrison's fortune would not be divided between Meredith, Alex, and Lily, as expected, but would instead go to a son out of wedlock, a young man named Ethan, whose existence had hitherto been unknown to the Harrison siblings. The shock was immediate. Meredith felt as if the ground was opening up beneath her feet, her quest for her father's approval seeming more distant than ever. Alex was visibly furious, unable to accept that a stranger could threaten his inheritance and position. Lily, for her part, was stunned, unable to process the information and wondering how her father, always so open with her about so many things, could keep such a significant secret. Mr. Whitaker explained that John had set specific conditions for Ethan's inheritance, details that would be managed by a trust, until Ethan was found and informed of his right. The lawyer emphasized that John held Ethan in high esteem, despite not having had the chance to make their relationship public or official during his lifetime. The revelation opened up an abyss of unanswered questions and contradictory feelings. The Harrison brothers, each struggling with their own emotions, began to realize that their father's death marked the beginning of a journey that would test family ties in ways they had never imagined. The reading of the will ended with more questions than answers, leaving the Harrison brothers on the brink of a new reality that none of them were prepared to face. In the silence that followed the reading of the will, each Harrison brother digested the news in their own way. Meredith remained paralyzed, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She couldn't understand how her father, a pillar of integrity and honesty in her mind, could keep such a monumental secret. The feeling of betrayal was accompanied by a strange sense of inadequacy. Had her efforts to impress her father been in vain all this time? Alex, furious, broke the silence with a bitter laugh. A child out of wedlock? Is that some kind of macabre joke? He couldn't accept the idea that his legacy and right to the family fortune were being challenged by a stranger, a nobody. "We'll see about that," he muttered, more to himself than to the others, already formulating plans to contest the will. Lily, the youngest and most sensitive, was in shock, almost on the verge of tears. She felt a mixture of sadness and curiosity about Ethan. Who was he? What was his relationship like with his father? And, most importantly, why did John feel the need to hide his existence? Unlike his brothers, his concern was less about his inheritance and more about understanding his father and this newfound brother. Over the next few days, the Harrison brothers began their own search for Ethan, each driven by different motivations. Meredith sought Ethan out with a sense of duty. She felt that, as the eldest, it was her responsibility to understand her father's intentions and protect the family's interests. She hired a private investigator, arguing that they needed all the information possible to deal with the situation properly. Alex, driven by anger and a sense of entitlement, took a more aggressive approach. He used his contacts in the business world to press for information, determined to find some loophole that he could use to challenge Ethan's legitimacy as heir. For Alex, it was a matter of principle. He would not allow his inheritance to be threatened. Lily, on the other hand, searched for Ethan with a mixture of curiosity and a desire to connect. She scoured social networks and other online resources, hoping to discover something about the brother she had never met. Lily wanted to understand. She wanted to know who Ethan was and what kind of person he could be. Ethan, on the other hand, led a simple, uncomplicated life. Working in a bookshop in a small town, he spent his days among books, passionate about reading and the knowledge that each page offered. Ethan was an introspective and gentle young man with a small circle of close friends and a life that many would consider modest, but which for him was full of meaning. On this particular day, Ethan was reorganizing the shelves when a coworker casually mentioned a news item about the death of a famous mystery writer. The name John Harrison was just another one to Ethan, with no apparent personal connection. He had no idea that his own life was about to change dramatically because of a hidden family tie to this man. While Ethan went about his routine, lost in thought about the books he loved, far away, a storm was brewing. A storm that would take him to the center of a family and an inheritance he never imagined he would be a part of. Still oblivious to the future that awaited him, Ethan closed the bookstore that night, unaware that his life was about to become intertwined with the complex fates of the Harrisons. After days of incessant searching and paths that seemed to lead nowhere, Meredith, Alex, and Lily finally began to find concrete clues about Ethan. The detective hired by Meredith discovered that Ethan worked in a small bookshop in a town not too far away. With this information in hand, the siblings felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. The possibility of finally meeting Ethan brought up a series of conflicting emotions. Alex, driven by his determination to protect what he considered his by right, couldn't wait to confront Ethan and assess the challenge he represented. Meredith, although worried about Alex's intentions, knew she couldn't avoid the encounter. And Lily, curious about her unknown brother, was anxious but also fearful of the changes his arrival might bring. The first encounter took place in the very bookshop where Ethan worked. Without warning, Meredith, Alex, and Lily entered the establishment, causing a sudden interruption to the tranquility of the place. Ethan, surprised by the unexpected visit of three strangers, was even more shocked when they introduced themselves as his half-brothers. The initial conversation was fraught with tension and misunderstandings. Alex, unable to contain her disdain, made fun of Ethan's simple life, insinuating that his claim to the inheritance was motivated by greed. Meredith tried to remain calm and explain the situation in more detail, but distrust was evident in her tone. Lily watched, trying to find traces of her father in Ethan, but the tension prevented any deeper connection. After the meeting, Alex became even more convinced that Ethan represented a direct threat to his inheritance and position. Determined not to let a complete stranger alter his destiny, Alex began to devise a plan to discredit Ethan, looking for any information he could use to question the legitimacy of his claim or even tarnish his character. Meredith and Lily, despite their initial caution, felt an undeniable curiosity about Ethan. Meredith, with her ever-analytical mind, began to ponder the complex legal and moral ramifications of the situation. She was torn between loyalty to her family and the sense of justice that her legal career had instilled in her. Lily, on the other hand, found herself wondering about Ethan's life and what it would be like to have grown up without knowing his father. This natural empathy made her want, more than before, to establish some kind of relationship with Ethan, despite the complicated circumstances. For Ethan, the revelation that John Harrison was his father and that he had half-brothers fighting over an inheritance, of which he was the main beneficiary, was overwhelming. The truth about his origin and the legacy he now seemed to claim forced him to reevaluate everything he knew about himself and his mother. Ethan found himself in the middle of a family battle he never asked to be part of, struggling to understand his place in this new world that opened up before him. The news of the inheritance and the reaction of his half-brothers left him torn between a sense of injustice at the way he had been treated and the realization that, somehow, this was his family too. Ethan began to question what he really valued and whether the legacy of a father he had never met should define his future. Alex, determined to undermine Ethan's position, devises an insidious plan to publicly humiliate him. Taking advantage of his influence, Alex spreads rumors about the legitimacy of Ethan's claim to the inheritance, suggesting that he is an opportunist who only appeared after John Harrison's death. Alex also manipulates a situation at an important social event, where Ethan is invited under friendly pretenses, only to be confronted with embarrassing questions about his family and origin in front of a crowd. Ethan, taken by surprise and unprepared to deal with the veiled hostility, feels the weight of humiliation, but chooses to maintain his dignity by refusing to get involved in a public dispute. Meanwhile, Meredith, driven by curiosity and a sense of justice, decides to investigate Ethan's life on her own. She discovers that Ethan was raised by Carol, a woman who always spoke highly of John Harrison, even though they never formed a traditional family. Meredith is touched by Ethan's modest life story and struggles, recognizing that he didn't have the same opportunities that she and her siblings had. This revelation softens her attitude towards Ethan, leading her to question her own motivations and those of her brothers in the inheritance dispute. Lily, always the most empathetic of the Harrison siblings, seeks out Ethan after the humiliating incident engineered by Alex. She apologizes for her brother's behavior, and during the conversation, discovers that she shares with Ethan a deep love of art and literature. This common interest becomes the foundation for an initial bond between them, with Lily showing Ethan some of John Harrison's favorite works of art and discussing her impressions and interpretations. These moments of genuine connection give Ethan a glimpse of the father he never knew through Lily's stories and memories. The rivalry between Alex and Ethan begins to affect the family dynamic as a whole. Meredith and Lily find themselves in the middle of a growing conflict, forced to navigate between family loyalty and a sense of justice. In a failed attempt at mediation, Meredith confronts Alex about his actions, leading to a heated argument about Ethan's rights and the true intention behind John's will. This confrontation makes it clear that the divisions within the Harrison family are deepening, with each member struggling to reconcile their personal feelings and interests. As the family tension grows, more details about John Harrison's relationship with Carol and how Ethan came to be are revealed. Through old letters found by Lily and conversations with Carol, the Harrison siblings discover that John and Carol had an intense but complicated love affair, marked by broken promises and difficult choices. John had always intended to take responsibility for Ethan, but circumstances and decisions over the years prevented him from doing so. These revelations paint a more complex portrait of John, showing him as a man torn between his responsibilities and desires, and shed new light on the decision to leave most of his inheritance to Ethan. Hoping to find his place within the Harrison family, Ethan makes conscious efforts to connect with Meredith, Alex, and Lily. He accepts invitations to family dinners, attends meetings discussing John's legacy, and even tries to get involved in the family business, offering his own perspectives. However, his efforts meet with mixed results. While Lily welcomes him with open arms, keen to strengthen their newfound sisterly bond, Meredith remains reserved, still trying to balance her emotions and sense of justice. Alex, however, maintains a distant coolness, hindering any attempt by Ethan to establish a meaningful connection. Alex's actions against Ethan begin to turn against him, both inside and outside the family sphere. Friends and associates question his integrity and the aggressiveness with which he has treated Ethan, leading to a forced reflection on his motivations and the way he is dealing with the situation. A particularly intense confrontation with Meredith, who accuses him of letting greed cloud his judgment, makes Alex question whether his battle against Ethan is really worth it, especially considering the negative impact on his own reputation and relationships. Meredith and Lily have a deep conversation about the situation, pondering the fairness of John's decision and what he really hoped his children would learn from it. Meredith, still struggling with her feelings about the will, begins to see things in a new light, thanks to Lily's more emotional and empathetic perspective. Lily suggests that perhaps John's real test wasn't about the inheritance, but about their ability to accept, forgive, and love, despite the unexpected circumstances. This conversation marks a turning point for Meredith, who begins to reevaluate her attitude towards Ethan. In one-on-one meetings, Ethan and the Harrison siblings share moments of vulnerability that reveal more about their characters and the complexities of their emotions. With Lily, Ethan shares his insecurities about being part of the family, while Lily confesses her fear of losing what little is left of her father. An accidental meeting between Ethan and Meredith in a cafe leads to a frank conversation about their fathers, with Meredith sharing memories of John and expressing her doubts about how to honor his memory. Even a brief tense encounter with Alex shows signs of a possible reconciliation, when Alex reluctantly admits to respecting Ethan's stance on the challenges he faces. When a scandal threatens to tarnish the Harrison family's reputation, with false accusations targeting the company founded by John, the siblings are forced to join forces to protect their father's legacy. This unexpected challenge serves as a catalyst to change the dynamic between them, with Alex, Meredith, and Lily recognizing the importance of family unity over personal disputes. Ethan, with his outside perspective and unique skills, plays a crucial role in helping to uncover the source of the scandal, earning Alex's respect and solidifying his place in the family. The crisis brings the brothers together in a way that months of tense interactions could not, opening a new chapter in their relationship and in the Harrisons' history. Driven by the need to understand John Harrison's true intentions, the brothers delve deeper into his past, digging through old diaries, letters, and interviewing old friends and associates. Their investigation reveals that John had faced a deep personal crisis years ago, questioning his legacy and the impact of his actions on those he loved. This personal journey led him to value family and reconciliation above all else, explaining his final decision in his will. Surprisingly, they discover that John had begun writing an unfinished novel, reflecting his own internal struggles and his hope of uniting the family. The new revelations provoke a storm of emotions in the Harrison brothers. While dealing with guilt and remorse for not fully understanding John's struggles while he was alive, they also face the challenge of redefining their own relationships. The truth about John's intentions serves as a mirror, forcing them to confront their own fears, insecurities, and failings. Each struggles internally with what they have learned, questioning how they can honor their father's memory and what this means for their future as a family. Ethan, after a revealing conversation with one of John's closest friends, discovers that his father's decision to leave most of the inheritance to him was, in fact, rooted in a desire to test the Harrison brothers. John hoped that Ethan's presence would lead them to reflect on family values, love, and acceptance. Ethan is moved and at the same time overwhelmed by this knowledge. He realizes the extent of the faith his father has placed in him and his half-brothers, strengthening his resolve to be part of the family, not because of inheritance, but because of the shared bond. Alex, confronted with his father's true intentions and seeing the impact of his own actions, begins a process of deep self-reflection. He recognizes how far he has been driven by resentment and ambition, losing sight of what really mattered. In a moment of vulnerability, he reaches out to Ethan, offering a sincere apology and expressing a desire to start again. This admission of fault and willingness to change marks a significant turning point for Alex, paving the way for reconciliation with Ethan and his other brothers. Encouraged by the changes in Alex and spurred on by discoveries about John's desire to bring them together, the Harrison brothers begin to reconnect in unexpected ways. They take up the project of John's unfinished novel, working together to complete it as a tribute to him. This collaborative project becomes a symbol of their renewed unity, allowing them to share memories, laugh, and cry together while healing old wounds. Through these shared efforts, they redefine the meaning of family, not as something determined by blood or heritage, but by love, forgiveness, and a mutual commitment to supporting each other. As the Harrison brothers unearth the past and confront their own truths, they learn the importance of forgiveness and family unity. Ethan, in revealing the purpose of his father's test, becomes the catalyst for a new understanding and acceptance between the brothers. Alex, facing up to his failings, takes a significant step towards change by apologizing and seeking redemption. Together, they find a way to honor their father's legacy by completing their unfinished novel as a collaborative project, symbolizing their renewed union. The story ends with the Harrison family stronger and more united, proving that true value lies not in inheritance, but in the bonds of love and mutual support.